Welcome to the Ranchonomics podcast, where we empower you to build a better ranch and transform your operations into a thriving business. I'm your host, John Haskell. Let's get started. Alex, welcome back to the Ranchonomics podcast. Glad to have you here again.
Yeah, good to see you, John.
Last week, we introduced Alex and his business, Robinette Farms. We talked a little about the injury that he has endured and how he has learned about the power of his mind and in recovery. And we're going to dive more into that. So last time we did talk about acceptance and presence, and this time we're going to talk a little about control. And I really like this framework you built about acceptance, presence, and control, because it certainly applies to all of us, even those of us that, have not endured what you have. But I think, as we talked about last time, all of us get to endure some sort of process that knocks us off course in one way or another, and we can definitely choose how we respond to that. So I will let you launch from there, Alex, if that's all right.
Yeah, sure. I mean, I think you're absolutely right. Everybody has something, and I'm technically disabled. I don't really like that word because I've done lots of things that quote unquote able-bodied people probably never will.
Right. And you're always razzing me from my ableist perspective.
Well, that's because you're an ableist, John, and we need to accept the reality of the situation. But, everybody has something. Everybody's disabled. I mean, I can't physically do things that I used to be able to do. And you look at me and you say, oh, that guy's disabled. But everybody is being held back in some way by something.
I hate to be this way, but there are a bunch of things I can't do that I used to do either. And I still walk around. So I once deadlifted 600 pounds.
600 pounds? That sounds like a terrible idea.
That's never going to happen again in my life, right?
Probably not. Probably not.
The joy of aging is we learn that we keep at these things, and yet we're never going to achieve the same heights that we did in our 30s, 40s, sort of in our prime.
Well, and that's sort of a goal versus journey thing, right? Like, is that the point, to do the amazing, super hard thing, or to just be active,
Right. And be on the path. Yeah.
On the path. That's right. Yeah. But I mean, in some ways, I'm sort of fortunate as well, because people look at me and they say, oh, he's disabled. And they have some idea that goes through their head about who I am or what I can do. But immediately I am a little bit less than. And that in many ways gives me an advantage. People, they think
They lower the bar.
They lower the bar. And most people walking around, you can't tell what their disability is, even though everybody's got something. And almost everybody has some sort of mental hang up. And I think that gets back to learning how to control your mind a little bit. And again, I got to say, I'm no expert at this. I don't do it well all the time. I get dragged down by the stupidest little things that hold me up and prevent me from moving forward. So I'm no angel when it comes to this, but it's something that's interesting to me, and I've learned, and there's been some situations that have really stood out to me. I did, outpatient rehab for a couple of years after my injury. And it got really, really, really boring, because you go into a gym and you climb up on this padded therapy table and they say, okay, let's lift your leg this way and twist your body this way. And you're just sort of like, I'm losing my mind here. This is so boring. And before I was injured, I still am quite active, but I was very, very active. I played soccer all the way through college. I loved rock climbing and hiking and doing all sorts of stuff like that. And so not too long after my injury, I was given a book by one of my therapists called Climbing Back by a guy named Mark Wellman. And he was the first paraplegic to climb El Capitan in 1989.
El Capitan's in Yosemite in California, right?
That's right. Yes, in Yosemite National Park.
It's like a big volcanic thing, right? Isn't that what it used to be?
Well, actually, did you know that my background is in geology, John? We could spend the next 45 minutes talking rocks if we'd like.
Well, maybe not 45 minutes. How about 45 minutes?
Yes, that was magma deep in the earth that cooled that way, but it wasn't like volcanoes.
Yeah, that's what I mean, right? It's like the cone is worn away and just the plug is left, right?
Kind of.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll go with that.
No geologist. Okay.
But yes,
I don't know anything about it.
There are these amazing just towers of granite, essentially. And Yosemite Valley is about a half mile or less than a half mile wide. And then El Capitan goes up like 3,200 feet on one side. I mean, it's breathtaking. It's really something you should check out. But Mark Wellman, first paraplegic to climb El Cap in 1989, I read his book, and then I got the University of Nebraska and Madonna Rehab Hospital to bring Mark to Nebraska because I wanted people to think beyond their injuries. And in Nebraska, especially, we don't think about rock climbing a lot. And so to just sort of really extend your mind as to what's possible. And Mark came and he spoke, and I hung out with him for a few days. And at the end of it, I realized, I think I could climb. I could climb in Yosemite if I get into it and figure it out. And it was more fun than going to outpatient rehab. And I thought, well, this will push my body.
I talk to a lot of people who struggle to fully implement the new wonderful things they learn from continuing education. You take the Ranching for Profit class, you learn about stockmanship, or you take a marketing course, and you come home and you struggle to fully implement what you now know. Often the barrier isn't what you know, it's your own mind. Bud Williams used to tell us to get our mind right constantly. And as easy as that is to say, it's pretty hard to do. We know a lot of the right things, but implementing them requires a new mindset. Fred Provenza describes conquering the distance between your own ears as the longest 6 inches. Sometimes you need to unlearn a few things you think you know. In the Zone Rancher course offered through ranching.fyi, Bob Palmer teaches us how to have an elite-level mindset. Bob has spent his career working with Olympic-level athletes, the military, and business people, teaching them how to work in the mental zone where they are most effective. We've all experienced the feeling of choking. Conversely, most of us have also experienced fleeting moments of brilliance where we perform at our best. Bob helps prepare us for those high-stress situations where the consequences are dire and the stakes are high. He has developed tools that allow us to consistently perform at our best in the moments when we need it the most. He teaches us how to practice correctly to get our minds right. Life in the zone is better. It's better for your business. It's better for your family. Join the next session of Zone Rancher through www.ranching.fyi and lead yourself and those around you to a whole new level.
So I got into climbing again and figured out some systems that would allow me with my body to still climb, and did some big walls in Yosemite in 15 and 16 and 17. And then in 2018, my friend Todd and I climbed El Capitan. And we spent 6 days on the wall, which is a little bit longer than most people take. I go pretty slow, but 6 days camped out on the wall and just taking in the view, and that experience, that place is amazing. And it's fun and exciting and relaxing and just mind-blowing.
All right, I want to clarify a few things here. So you're on a almost perfectly vertical 3,200 feet cliff.
It's actually overhanging.
Okay.
It's slightly overhung.
Negative angle kind of thing. So
yes, exactly.
Okay. And it took you 6 days to climb this. And in the middle, you're sleeping on one of these things where you're on a
portaledge.
Yeah, on a rack, tied to the wall. So if you roll off to the side, it's however many feet to the ground, straight down.
That's correct. Although don't tell Chloe, but I wasn't tied in. I didn't sleep tied in the same way. So.
Okay. All right. So you climbed before?
I did. I rock climbed a lot in college and graduate school. And then I was an arborist climbing trees when I moved to Nebraska.
So you have the comfort with heights that I don't have.
Exactly. I do. I enjoy heights. They don't freak me out. I like it. And that's where I was going with this story, John, is that we got about 3 days up. So we were maybe 1,000 feet, 1,200 feet off the deck, I think. And a group the night before, these 3 climbers had stopped below us. They call them pitches. It's basically a rope length. So you split the climb up into dozens of pitches, right?
Yeah.
And they stopped right below us the night before. And we shouted down to them and said, hey, why don't you guys pass us in the morning? Because they're going faster than us. So they said, sounds great. So we had a slow morning on the portaledge and hung out while these 3 guys climbed up to us. And then one of them led the pitch away. And the other 2 guys in the party hung out and chatted with us while the other guy was leading, right? And the number 2 was like, oh my God. He got up to us and he's like, I hate being number 2. I hate climbing. I'm just scared of heights. And I was like, are you kidding me? You're all the way up here, 1,200 feet off the deck, and you're scared of heights?
Great time to realize this, buddy.
Yeah. And he said, well, I don't mind it if I'm leading. But when I'm the second, in this climbing situation, the second climbs the rope. They're just climbing up the rope. And the rope kind of is stretchy. It's more like a rubber band than a steel cable in this situation. So all you can kind of picture when they call it jugging, when you're jugging, is that rope kind of bouncing and all the sharp granite edges that you see on the rocks all the way around you. So he got freaked out doing that, and I understood. And we're sitting on the ledge, and I say, that's interesting. I'm not afraid of heights. It doesn't bother me, And I'm sitting up there, we're 1,200 feet off the deck. I don't get scared by that. I like it. I enjoy it. But I said to him, what freaks me out is snakes. And I don't know why. It's just like monkey brain. If I see a snake or something that moves like a snake, I can't control it. It's just reflexive, right? And he goes, well, did you see that rattlesnake at the base of the climb? And instantly, John, I was terrified of everything. Now I was afraid of heights.
Brantford, yeah.
Yeah, now I was afraid of heights. This was a place that I had been like 2 or 3 days before. I'm 1,200 feet away from this snake. It's not going to bother me. But my mind had flipped, right? Like nothing objectively was different about the danger I faced in the world in that moment, but I was suddenly scared, right? And so there was a spontaneous switch there that happened in my brain that I did not have control over and totally changed my outlook on the world, right?
Interesting. Yeah.
And if you could learn, and I'm not claiming I've learned, but if you could learn to make that switch in a more positive way, think of how powerful that is, right?
Right.
I mean, I was terrified and there was no reason for it.
Right.
All right. Good. Thank you. We will come back next week, but thanks for joining me today. Look forward to visiting with you again.
Thank you for tuning into the Ranchonomics podcast. We hope this episode helped you win today. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe and share it with a friend.